Hi, welcome back to Anita's Home Cooking. Today I'm going to show you how I make chicken tikka masala. I know there's a lot of recipes out there, different versions, but this is the way I've been making it for the last few years and I thought I'd share it with you guys. So before we get started, I just wanted to talk about garam masala. I use a homemade garam masala mix that my mother-in-law makes. So in her garam masala mix, there's mainly fennel seeds, cloves, cardamom, cinnamon sticks, peppercorn, star anise, mace, and a little bit of a nutmeg. And the mace is very little too. But the main ingredients are the fennel, clove, cardamom, and cinnamon. So if you are using your own garam masala mix, or if you're using a store-bought one such as this, it's going to be a little different. So everybody has their own different type of garam masala mixes. So some have more ingredients than others do. For instance, this is a store-bought one. So this has coriander, ginger, mustard, turmeric, salt, and curry leaf. So this has none of those ingredients. So depending on the type of garam masala that you use, it will affect the flavor a little bit. So it won't be exactly like mine because I'm using a homemade one. So the type of kind of garam masala that you use, this could alter the taste a little bit, but feel free to use whatever garam masala that you can find or have on hand. So down below, I will leave a list of the ingredients that my mother-in-law uses in her garam masala mix. And let's get started marinating the chicken. So I'm going to use boneless, skinless chicken breast. Chicken thighs. Boneless, skinless chicken thighs. So if you can't find any boneless, skinless thighs, you can go ahead and use regular bone-in thighs and just debone it yourself and take the skin off. That's exactly what I did here because I couldn't find any at the store recently. And you want to clean this and get off as much visible fat as you can and cut them into big bite-sized pieces that we're going to skewer later. So you want to cut them in about 1.5 to 2 inches sizes. So just like how I did for my tandoori chicken bites, I'm going to marinate this and get them on skewers and in the oven. So if you haven't seen that video, please check it out and see how I make my tandoori chicken bites. The ingredients I will be using to marinate the chicken are plain yogurt. So this is just plain yogurt. This is 4 teaspoons of garam masala, 4 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and 1 teaspoon of coriander powder. So I do actually use a measuring spoon to measure this and not a regular spoon. Okay, so I just put in my 1/4 cup of my plain yogurt into my mixing bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in all the spices. So there is no particular way to do this. You can mix the spices into the yogurt, or you can just throw your chicken in there and then mix it all up together. I have my masalas mixed up a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the chicken in right now. Like I said, you can just throw your chicken in the bowl and then the spices and yogurt and mix it all together at one time. There's no particular order for this. So I'm just going to use my clean hands and mix them up nicely. So my chicken's nicely mixed up. I'm going to put a cover on this and put this in the fridge and let it marinate for at least a couple of hours. If you're doing this the day before, you can go ahead and do it and let it marinate overnight. Now I've taken the chicken out of the fridge. It's been marinating for a couple of hours. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting them on my skewers. I'm using metal skewers, but if you have wooden skewers that you're using, make sure you remember to soak them for at least 30 minutes so they don't burn. So the skewering, you can just, there's no special way. It doesn't matter. You can just get them close to each other. Doesn't matter how it goes in and how it looks, because once it's cooked, we're going to be taking them off the skewers and into the gravy. So chicken tikka masala it's not hard to make. It's not a hard recipe. It's fairly easy. You just need some time and patience to make this, because it is a bit of a process and it does require a few steps. This being one of the steps, marinating the chicken and getting it broiled in the oven. And then making the masala, which, you know, you really need to cook those onions down, cook the garlic and ginger down. So Just plan ahead of time, make sure you have time, and just be patient, enjoy, and it's gonna be well worth it at the end because you're gonna have some tasty chicken tikka masala. And since you are going through the trouble of making it, just go ahead and double the batch. So maybe instead of 2 pounds, make 4 pounds, which is roughly 2 kgs. So when you're going through the trouble, just go ahead and double up the recipe. My chicken is all skewered up. I'm gonna wash my hands and then get this in the oven and broil it. I'm gonna slide these in. I do it lengthwise because the broiler, if you can see, it's long, lengthwise. So I'm gonna get that in there. So I'm gonna broil this for 12 minutes per side, and then I'm gonna flip it and then cook it for another 12 minutes. And in between, I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the pan so that you get a more even cooking. While the chicken's in the oven broiling, I'm gonna go ahead and get all my ingredients ready and start making the masala, the gravy for the chicken tikka masala. So these are some of the ingredients I'll be using: 2 large onions, 6 cloves of garlic, 4 green chilies, and about 2 tablespoons of grated ginger. I'm gonna be chopping this up and I'm gonna throw it in my mortar and pestle so I can get a nice smooth paste. I'm also gonna be using 4 tomatoes, which I'm gonna puree later, and also a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. So I'm gonna start with the onions. So the onions, I'm just gonna chop them up into large pieces and throw them in my food processor. So the smaller the pieces, the smoother your paste will be. So you don't want too many chunky vegetables in there because your paste, the gravy won't be quite as smooth. And if you are doubling up, you're gonna be using 4 onions. So you wanna just make things a little bit easier and quicker and just throw it in your food processor if you have one. Otherwise, like I said, just try to cut it as small as you can. I have my onions in my food processor. I'm gonna go ahead and pulse it as fine as I can. Okay, so I have my pan heating on about medium high. This is a non-stick pan. I have my onions ready to go. I'm gonna throw in the onions first because you gotta start getting that cooked down. It's gonna take a lot longer. So you're gonna be using a 1/4 cup and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. This is the second of the tablespoons, so that's all in there. Okay, now I'm gonna throw my onions in there. I forgot to throw in my ground cumin in there. I'm putting 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. So you can go ahead and throw it in now. It's okay. I was going to throw it in before, but it really doesn't matter. So you just want to get that cooking with the onions. So this onion I'm going to be cooking right now for about 3-4 minutes. Well, 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to start cooking this down. 3 to 5 minutes while I get my garlic, ginger, and chilies going. While I have my onions cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the stuff together. I have my cloves of garlic that I'm just going to smash and throw in to my mortar and pestle. You can grate these or use your food processor or whatever, just finely mince them. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of these in there and get it going. Get this smashing. You want to try to get it into a nice paste. So my garlic, ginger paste, chilies is all ready to go. I was stirring my onions in between and my chicken's just about ready to flip over. I'm gonna get this out of the oven and just flip it over. Just use a tongue or something and just carefully flip. This is quite a bit of chicken on this skewer. You can split it up into 3 or 4 skewers if you want, but I just usually pile it on. Okay, now I'm going to get this back in the oven for another 12 minutes and flip it halfway through. Just rotate the pan halfway through. Now I'm going to add my garlic ginger chili paste to the onions, and this is going to be cooking for another 20 minutes. Like I mentioned, this is a step-by-step process, not hard, but it just requires time and patience. So I'm going to keep cooking this for another 20 minutes because you want the onions and garlic and ginger and everything to really cook down, because you don't want any rawness, and the more it cooks, it becomes like a nicer gravy, a nice thick gravy. So you want to make sure you stir in between and be careful of the heat. Make sure you keep it on about medium low. So you don't want this to burn. If you see that it's burning, turn your heat down. So pay attention and watch your onions. While the onions are cooking, I'm going to get the rest of the things ready. I'm going to get my tomato chopped up and into the food processor just to puree it. So I just cut my tomatoes into large chunks. You can use fresh tomatoes. I just use frozen tomatoes because it's easier to get the skin off of them, but you can go ahead and leave the skin on. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw this into the food processor and just get it pureed up. So it's been about 5 minutes since the onions have been cooking. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I like to salt the onions while they're cooking down. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon of salt for now, but we will be tasting it and checking it along the way, and if it needs more salt, we're going to add it at that time. My chicken is cooked and ready to come out of the oven. So now I'm just going to let it hang out until it's ready to go into the gravy. So just let it sit, and make sure you don't throw away all those juices that came out, because we're going to put that into our gravy later. My onions have been cooking for about 20 minutes now. You can see some nice brown bits in there. So now it's time to put in the rest of the stuff. I'm going to put in my tomato paste right now, 6 ounces of tomato paste. And my pureed tomatoes, the fresh tomatoes, or frozen. If you are using frozen tomatoes, make sure you take them out early enough so that they do thaw out, so that you can puree them easier. Tomatoes are going in now. And I'm also going to put half a cup of hot water, so boiling or hot water. And we're going to cook this down for another 10 minutes. I'm going to get this mixed up, put a lid on it, keep it on low or medium low, and let it cook for 10 minutes. You want to make sure you get everything really nicely mixed in. So you want to try getting that tomato paste and everything to mix in nicely so you don't have any lumps. But, you know, as it cooks down, it's going to be a lot smoother. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit more salt in here because I did put those tomatoes and tomato paste, which has no salt. So we're just going to keep tasting it and adjusting it as we go along, and at the end we can add more salt to taste. Now, as you can see, this is starting to bubble, so you want to wait till you get a low, simmer or some bubbling of the tomatoes. And then now I'm going to put the lid on it. And now you can see the tomatoes are starting to bubble, so this is what you want to look for. So I'm going to lower the heat down to low or medium low. Just keep an eye on it. I'm going to cover it with the lid and put the timer on for 10 minutes and let it cook down. The tomatoes have been cooking for 10 minutes now. You can see it's been boiling away. So at this time I'm going to add some more masalas to this. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, 4 more teaspoons of garam masala, and 1 teaspoon of coriander powder. I'm just gonna get this mixed in. So get this mixed in, and then once this is mixed in nicely, I'm gonna add my chicken to this gravy. Okay, I'm gonna, at this point the chicken is cooled off and, you know, cool enough to handle. So I'm gonna try to separate some of these chicken pieces and get it into the gravy. And I'm gonna get that rest of the juice that had come out from the chicken. So make sure you put this in because there's a lot of good flavor and masalas in this. So just throw it all in there. Okay, I'm gonna get this mixed into the gravy. And once it's nicely mixed in, I'm gonna be adding 1 cup of heavy cream to this. Here's my 1 cup of heavy cream. This is heavy whipping cream. Just get that in there. Get that mixed up nicely and bring it back to a low boil. And then I'll be covering this up and letting this cook for another 10 minutes. Now you can see this is coming up to a low boil again. I have the heat on medium to low. So just keep an eye on it. Don't have it boiling, you know, really high. Just gentle cooking. I'm gonna put the lid on this and let it cook for 10 more minutes. While my chicken is simmering away for those 10 minutes, I'm gonna prepare my cilantro. But just remember to stir the chicken in between. Don't just leave it for 10 minutes. You wanna check in on it and make sure it's not sticking to the bottom, and just give that gravy a mix, okay? So the cilantro, depending on the size of your bunch, if you have a huge bunch, maybe use half of the bunch, but if you have a little bunch, use the entire bunch. So I have like a good handful here that I washed and made sure it's nice and clean, and I'm just gonna chop this up. So I'm just gonna get this minced up. Okay, now this is nicely minced up and ready to throw into the chicken. Chicken is ready here. It's been 10 minutes. I'm gonna throw my cilantro in there. Gonna mix my cilantro into the dish. Okay, this is mixed in. Now I'm gonna add some sugar into this dish. So I'm gonna put about 3 tablespoons of sugar for now. And the sugar is depending on your taste. So if you don't want it too sweet, put less sugar. If you want it sweeter, put a little bit more sugar. But taste it and see if you need to adjust it according to your taste. Okay, mix the sugar in. Now at this point I'm gonna taste it for seasoning, see if it needs more salt, or if I want it sweeter, or if it needs anything else. It's good, but it does need a little bit more salt, and I think I'm going to put a touch more sugar for my taste. Let's get this mixed up again. So seasoning is good. Now I'm just going to cover this up and let it simmer for another 5 to 10 minutes, but closer to 10 minutes. It's been about 10 minutes now. Chicken is ready. Here you have chicken tikka masala. I'm going to go ahead and get this plated now. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this recipe. I know it takes a little bit of time. There are a few steps and it's a bit of a process, but it's definitely well worth it. Like I said, make a double batch since you're going through the trouble, and you can eat it with parota. You can eat it with chapati, rice, ghee rice, whatever you want. It's definitely a tasty recipe and something you would definitely want to try making. Please like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of my next video. And try this out and tell me what you think.